Hi. Today I want to talk about recentering the electorate and refocusing the 2016 elections so that it is no longer about just choices that are phony choices. And they're phony choices because we have more choices than that. That's why so many people are independent voters. Now, as Ben Carlson told The View, we are making one of the most important decisions in the history of this country right now. And so the girls, if you will, at The View should grow a brain and stop talking about their idle chatter and making their judgments. Stop talking about making judgments whether this or that person is a racist or a sexist. First of all, they're biased when they make those judgments. Let's start talking about how we can set this country right again, because we are in serious trouble. Barack Obama is dancing the tango. He's doing the wave at a ball game, while terrorists are mass murdering supposedly our allies. Well, within 2 days, he was saying that was his highest priority, was to protect people against terrorism, ISIS. That's what he said. But when it happened, he was doing the wave. He was dancing the tango with Castro and with some Argentinians. And now he says, America has Belgium's back. You're kidding me. He should have said something like, I'm back, and I sure did enjoy that tango. But right now, that being said, I think something needs to be said about what they're doing with the Republican nomination. Now we're finally down to the two outsider candidates, Trump and Cruz. So now what happens? The clowns, if I may say so, who run the Republican establishment have decided they're going to nuke both of them. They've got the help of the so-called leader of those clowns, Mitt Romney. And so now here's what's coming out in the news, that Marco Rubio's people, when the Republican establishment was getting all behind Marco Rubio between March 10th and March 15th, they decided to go after Ted Cruz. They're not Ted Cruz's friends. They don't want him to win. Nothing has changed. They don't like Ted Cruz. And so Marco Rubio and the party sent some people up, some detectives, that had been following Ted Cruz. What did he do on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Allegedly, he was with a woman. From some pictures I've seen, very attractively dressed. She might be the one who is supposedly his secretary, his press secretary. But he was at the Capitol Grill, which is an eating establishment, and has a hotel with it. He was seen leaving all Tuesdays and Thursdays with this attractively dressed woman. At the same time, Trump's wife, Melania, is a European immigrant and a model. And Mitt Romney was making fun of that. Mitt Romney was making fun of her at a time when in Utah, the caucuses were coming up, and they were in there with this Canadian, Liz Mayer. She's a Canadian citizen, and they were running commercials featuring a year 2000 GQ cover, Gentleman's Quarterly, and made an ad out of it, supporting Ted Cruz against Donald Trump. Ran it all over Utah, Mitt Romney's territory, while the caucus vote was taking place. And of course, Romney was himself trying to be the president again. Basically, when that happened, Donald Trump objected after that election. And I mean, Donald Trump could pull out with things like this going on. But Donald Trump told Ted Cruz that he should be paying attention to his own wife, Heidi, and not Donald Trump's wife. So what happened then was that just the day after Trump's remarks, this story broke in the National Enquirer, that the next edition was going to feature allegations of at least 5 extramarital affairs by Ted Cruz. Essentially, that Ted was not paying attention to his own wife. Now, what I want to do here is to focus the race back on the issues. And I'm doing it because, let's face it, these people who are running this, I would probably go so far as to say including Liz Mayer as well, because she's making a lot of money on these kinds of things. Calls herself a social media consultant, although the ad she ran, I believe, was on television. But these people don't like either of the two remaining outsiders. And this is obviously a plan by the Republican establishment. They've already said that they don't care if they lose this presidential election. that these particular fine and upstanding Republicans, or whatever they say they are going to keep a grip on that so-called Republican Party. And they're willing to sacrifice the party and hence the country. Well, what this means is that they don't want either Ted Cruz or Donald Trump to get the nomination or to beat Hillary Clinton and become the president nominated by the Republican Party. These people have done such a poor job in this election. And now really they are themselves anti-American because they're helping the enemy, if you will. Anti-Americans like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton to destroy the country. And so we need to get back right now to the core issues of the economy, of defending this nation and Western Europe, and of creating equal opportunity while still having social sanity. For instance, we have so-called teachers inventing a so-called curriculum that tells children that they can wait until some indefinite age to decide what sex they are. All right, at this point, I don't really care what the academics have done to change the system. Any person on the entire planet can see that this is insane. It's crazy. And to be using our school system to carry out this agenda is itself anti-American. So I want to get back to the issue of education. I want to call on Donald Trump and Ted Cruz to say, look, you have got this far because of your positions on important issues. It's true that when you go on with loons like Megyn Kelly, Chris Wallace, who used to be a pretty level-headed guy, I guess the money must have got to him. Of course, they don't care about these issues, but this is what the American people have seen. I can't speak for Trump voters. I'm running myself for president as an independent candidate, but I want the election to get back on track as it gets focused. But I can understand why people support basically both Donald Trump and Ted Cruz or Ben Carlson. I don't agree with them on everything. I think that Donald Trump does need to look at what's happening to traditional marriage and to religious liberties, and he says things, and many of his comments do focus on protecting Christians here and abroad. Of course, Christians would say, well, we don't need Donald Trump to do that because God and Jesus Christ are our protector. But that is a fine position that Donald Trump has. It's much better if people have the religious liberties to live in a way such that this country is going to survive. And so I can understand their issue positions, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, and I want that debate to continue, despite the fact that our professional, money-grubbing so-called media is so immature that they would rather sell tickets to a bout about people's wives that is stirred up by friends of Marco Rubio and the Republican establishment than cover the campaign intelligently. This is another attack on America. We are at a time, folks, when we need to look at these issues being raised by these men. And I have also raised the issues. But it's important to look at these issues even at the congressional level. A lot of senators, a few of the Republican senators are trying to help Barack Obama while he's dancing the tango gleefully to further ruin the U.S. Supreme Court that Antonin Scalia himself said in a formal opinion is a threat to American democracy. Now, the attack on Antonin Scalia was an attack on American democracy and on the U.S. Supreme Court. It's been loaded up with politically picked extremists, gloating, hating women. Elena Kagan, who tried to attack Christianity and the military at Harvard when she was there, and Sotomayor, who is an enemy of equal opportunity and a friend of undercutting America's institutions because she thinks that they're racist or sexist or whatever her problem is on any given day. Our courts are full of these kinds of people, folks. We have them in Minnesota. We have Susan Nelson. We have Wilhelmina Wright. We have Michael Davis, who are identity politicians whose goal is not justice or to carry out the law, but to find ways in which they can abuse their power and the trust they have been sworn to and carry out attacks on our equal rights from the federal court bench. And we have them at the Minnesota Supreme Court. Now we've got to refocus this race, and we've got to go forward in a mature way in the months that remain. We've got to look all around the country. We've got the internet. We can communicate. We've got to look all around the country. I see Sharon Angle is running again in Nevada. We've got people running against the Republican establishment here in Minnesota, like Tom Emmer, with this A.J. Cairn near St. Cloud. On the other hand, we've got somebody who right now is a safe DFL election pick, Keith Ellison, who's both a homosexual activist and a Muslim, and also supports marching in the streets in Minneapolis, attacking the public buildings, the airport, the Mall of America, and the police. We've got people who are supporting a so-called educational environment where teachers can be attacked by the students. ISIS said they would attack our police in St. Paul. It was a headline a few weeks ago. So we've just got to restore order. We've got to restore order in this campaign. So I'm asking Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and all of their supporters to refocus, not to go for this personal attack being carried out by our Republican Party and by those who don't care about America very much. Liz Mayer is a Canadian. What does she care about America? She just found out you could go there and get rich. She doesn't care if it's by selling out this country during the most important election in our history, as Ben Carlson correctly told the airheads at The View. I'm Steve Carlson. I'm running for president, and I approve this message.